In this tutorial, we shall model a massive brickwork wall which is internally insulated. The thermal insulation is interrupted by a wooden stud at regular distances, causing a thermal bridge effect. We shall learn various input options and interface of Trisco 2D while modeling this geometry. Upon opening Trisco 2D, you notice image window where you see the geometry. Geometry is made using blocks at blocks window, and these blocks use grids at grids window to define the extents. At Trisco 2D, each color represents a material, cavity, or boundary condition. We first set the grid units. From the grid menu, choose grid unit. Here input 0.001 meter because we need grid in millimeters. Then Trisco 2D asks you if you want to transform grid width. If you choose yes, the existing grid will be transformed to match the new grid dimensions. You notice the grid dimension transformed from 1 cm to 10 mm. If we had chosen not to transform the grid width, then we would have the grid as 1 mm on the x and y axis. As we see in this image, the thickness of the wall is 190 mm and the thickness of insulation is 120 mm with wooden studs. We need 3 grids along x-axis and 4 grids along the y-axis. We can add a new grid by clicking on Insert after at the top toolbar. We will create 2 new grids along the x-axis. Similarly, we will add 3 new grids along the y-axis. We now input grid width along x-axis, 280 mm for first grid, 40 mm for the second grid which has stud, and 280 mm for third grid. Along the y-axis, we input width as 10 mm for the first grid, 190 mm for the second grid, 120 mm for the third grid, and 10 mm again for fourth grid. Now at blocks window, we define the grid extents of first block, which is a masonry wall with x-min 0 to x-max 3. Along the axis we define y-min 1 and y-max 2. We input the color as 180, which is heavy masonry. Then we add a new block by clicking on Insert after and input the color as 151 for insulation. We define x-min as 0 and x-max as 3. Y-min as 2 and y-max as 3. As we input the color number at the block window, you notice the material properties in the colors window. Now from the blocks menu, choose Copy After. We now see the block duplicated. For this block, we change the color to 15 for softwood. X-min as 1 and x-max as 2. Y-min as 2 and y-max as 3. Here the blocks are arranged based on the principle of superposition, which means blocks towards the bottom of the list have higher priority than the blocks on the top. Hence, wooden studs have replaced insulation at the area of overlap. We can change the priority of these blocks by selecting the block and choosing a reference block to move below it. Now from the blocks menu, choose to move after. You notice the selected block has been shifted below the reference block. Undo this by Ctrl+Z. Next, we add another block using Copy After and input color as 145 for gypsum. Change x-min 0, x-max to 3, y-min to 3 and y-max to 4. From the blocks menu, choose Copy After. Now for the duplicated block, change color to 55 and y-min to 0 and y-max to 1. You can save your file. Currently, the colors window is under list present, which means only colors assigned to blocks are displayed. Now from the colors window you choose to list all. You can see the entire list of colors. Here you find colors with predefined properties and also colors with empty parameters. This allows you to customize and create your own material. If we choose List defined in the Colors menu, then only colors with predefined properties from the color database are visible. For the assigned colors you can also change the name or properties as they are in editable format. But you need to note that any change you make here is only restricted to this project, as the changes are locally made and won't affect your future project. If you wish to change the default color database and wish to set a precedent for next projects, then from File menu choose the Open Color database. Make sure to save as the current Trisco 2D project now would close to Open Color database. Upon opening, any change you make here would modify the default color database. You can see all the list of materials, cavities, boundary conditions and colors with empty parameters. You can now close this and open the project file. We now need to add blocks for the internal and external boundary conditions. To add the blocks we need the corresponding grids. Click on Select Horizontal Grid Line and click on the space above to create a grid line there. Similarly, click on the bottom to create a grid line. Ensure that colors are under the list defined. Then choose Color 174 for interior boundary conditions and using the Fill tool apply color but clicking on the grid region. Similarly, select Color 170 and apply color on top for external boundary conditions. We will explore more of such shorter techniques to draw grids and apply colors in later videos. Thank you for watching, see you in the next video.